Have you ever wondered if the world you see is real, or merely a carefully crafted illusion created by your mind? The truth is, the way we perceive the world is far from objective. Our brains don't act as neutral observers. Instead, they interpret and filter information to make sense of the overwhelming complexity around us. This process, while necessary for survival, often leads to distortions and gaps in how we see reality. Imagine walking into a crowded room. You instantly notice a friend's face in the sea of strangers. But did you notice the color of the walls or the arrangement of chairs? Most likely not. This is because your brain prioritizes certain details over others, constructing a simplified version of reality tailored to what it deems most relevant. But here's the catch. This mental shortcut isn't always accurate. It can cause us to miss vital information or form judgments based on incomplete or biased data. In this video, we'll explore the fascinating ways our perceptions shape and sometimes mislead us. You'll discover why your brain creates these illusions, how they impact your daily life, and most importantly, how to overcome them. By the end, you'll gain tools to see the world more clearly, unlocking a new level of awareness that can transform your decisions, relationships, and overall understanding of reality. Let's start by diving into the inner workings of our perceptions. How they function, where they fail, and what they reveal about the limits of human cognition. Perception begins with the brain's astonishing ability to take raw sensory inputs, light, sound, texture, and transform them into the vivid, coherent world we experience. But contrary to popular belief, what we see isn't reality itself, it's a constructed interpretation. The brain works like an artist, painting a picture of the world based on past experiences, assumptions, and limited sensory data. This process is efficient, but it's also full of blind spots. Consider an optical illusion, such as the famous Kanitsa triangle. Your brain fills in missing edges to create a triangle that doesn't actually exist. Why does this happen? The brain evolved to prioritize speed and coherence over precision. It relies on patterns and shortcuts, or heuristics, to make sense of the environment quickly. While these shortcuts are helpful for survival, they sometimes lead to inaccurate perceptions. This phenomenon isn't limited to visual illusions. Take, for example, the well-known invisible gorilla experiment. Participants watching a video were asked to count how many times a basketball was passed between players. In focusing on the task, about half completely missed a person in a gorilla costume walking through the scene. This illustrates selective attention, where the brain filters out what it deems irrelevant to concentrate on a specific task. But why does this matter in daily life? Our selective focus doesn't just apply to objects in a video. It affects how we interpret conversations, solve problems, and even form relationships. We notice what aligns with our expectations and overlook everything else. This can lead to misunderstandings, missed opportunities, and a distorted view of reality. For instance, think about the last time you walked into a room full of strangers. Did you gravitate toward people who looked familiar or approachable? That's your brain relying on heuristics to minimize social risk. But in doing so, it may have filtered out opportunities to connect with someone outside your comfort zone. Understanding how our perceptions work is the first step toward seeing beyond their limits. It's not just about illusions on a page. It's about recognizing how these mental shortcuts shape our entire reality. In the next section, we'll uncover the common errors and biases that arise from this process, and how they affect your life in unexpected ways. Now that we understand how our brains construct reality, it's time to delve deeper into the hidden pitfalls of this process. Perception isn't just about interpreting sensory inputs, it's also deeply influenced by internal biases and mental shortcuts. These mechanisms, though useful in many situations, can lead us astray in ways that are subtle yet profound. One of the most pervasive errors in perception is the confirmation bias. This bias refers to our tendency to seek, interpret, and remember information that supports our pre-existing beliefs while ignoring evidence that contradicts them. Imagine you strongly believe that someone at work is untrustworthy. Every minor misstep or ambiguous action they take might stand out to you as proof of your belief, even if the evidence is flimsy. Meanwhile, positive actions they take may go unnoticed or be dismissed as anomalies. Another common perceptual error is the anchoring effect, where our decisions and judgments are disproportionately influenced by the first piece of information we encounter. For instance, during a negotiation, the initial price mentioned, whether reasonable or not, can set the tone for all subsequent discussions. This mental anchor skews our perception of what is fair or logical. These biases don't just affect individual decisions. They ripple outward, shaping how we interact with others and navigate the world. Consider social stereotypes. Our brains are wired to categorize people and situations quickly, which helps us make rapid judgments. However, this same mechanism can perpetuate harmful generalizations, leading to unfair treatment and missed opportunities for meaningful connections. Memory, too, is influenced by these biases. Contrary to what we might believe, our memories are not perfect recordings of past events. They are reconstructions shaped by emotions, context, and hindsight. For example, if you have a negative perception of a past relationship, your brain might emphasize memories of conflict and downplay moments of joy, reinforcing your current view. Understanding these deceptions is crucial because they highlight how fallible our perceptions are. They show that our truth is often a subjective story, influenced as much by our internal frameworks as by external reality. But there's hope. By becoming aware of these biases, we can start to question them and make more balanced, informed choices. In the next chapter, we'll explore how these perceptual errors play out in daily life, from personal relationships to societal dynamics, and how they influence the world we create for ourselves. Our perceptions don't just shape how we interpret the world, they actively influence how we experience and interact with it. The limitations and biases we explored earlier manifest in nearly every aspect of daily life, from our closest relationships to how we navigate complex social and professional environments. In personal relationships, think about the last disagreement you had with a friend, partner, or family member. How often do arguments stem not from outright lies but from differing interpretations of the same event? Perception filters, shaped by our emotions and past experiences, color these moments. For example, a partner's neutral comment might be perceived as criticism simply because it echoes past hurtful remarks. These misunderstandings accumulate, building barriers in relationships that could otherwise thrive. Confirmation bias plays a significant role here. If you believe someone is impatient, you'll notice every instance when they interrupt but overlook their acts of kindness or patience. This selective perception creates a feedback loop, reinforcing the original assumption and deepening the divide. In professional settings, perceptions also heavily influence decision-making and dynamics in the workplace. For instance, imagine two employees presenting similar ideas. If one is perceived as more confident or competent, often based on superficial factors such as appearance or charisma, their suggestion is more likely to be embraced. This demonstrates how anchoring and other biases affect judgments, even when merit should be the deciding factor. Perceptual errors can also lead to missed opportunities. Consider a brainstorming session where unconventional ideas are dismissed because they don't fit existing frameworks. This resistance to novelty stems from our brain's preference for the familiar, which feels safer and more predictable. In contrast, cultivating awareness of these biases can create space for innovation and collaboration. In society and media, on a larger scale, collective perceptions shape societal norms, opinions, and conflicts. The media, for example, often frames events in ways that guide public perception. A headline emphasizing conflict may lead readers to believe a situation is far worse than it truly is, even if the full story reveals more nuance. This framing effect influences public opinion, voting behavior, and even policy decisions. Social media amplifies this phenomenon, creating echo chambers where individuals are exposed primarily to perspectives that align with their own. This reinforces confirmation bias, polarizes communities, and stifles constructive dialogue. The result is a distorted collective perception of reality, where misinformation can thrive. The ripple effect. These perceptual influences don't stop at individual or group levels. They ripple outward, shaping the very fabric of society. When enough people share a skewed perception, whether it's about economic inequality, climate change, or social justice, it impacts the priorities and actions of governments, corporations, and other institutions. Understanding these dynamics reveals a crucial truth. Perception is not just a passive process. It's an active force that shapes our choices and defines the world we live in. By recognizing these patterns, we can begin to challenge the default settings of our minds and create a more thoughtful, equitable, and connected reality. In the next chapter, we'll shift from identifying these patterns to empowering you with practical tools to question and expand your perceptions. Recognizing the limitations and biases of our perceptions is the first step towards seeing the world more clearly. But awareness alone isn't enough. To truly break free from the illusions constructed by our minds, We need actionable tools to question, expand, and refine the way we interpret reality. In this chapter, we'll explore practices and strategies that can empower you to move beyond mental shortcuts and see the world, and yourself, with greater clarity. 1. Cultivating self-awareness through mindfulness. Mindfulness is a powerful practice for observing your thoughts and perceptions without judgment. By cultivating a state of present-moment awareness, you can start to notice the patterns and filters your mind imposes on the world. One simple exercise involves choosing an everyday object, like a cup or a leaf, and spending 5 minutes observing it closely. Pay attention to its color, texture, shape, and weight. What details emerge that you hadn't noticed before? This practice trains your brain to slow down and question its default interpretations, encouraging curiosity about the overlooked aspects of your environment. Mindfulness can also help in emotional situations. For example, during a heated discussion, take a moment to pause and observe your immediate reactions. Ask yourself, why am I feeling this way? Am I reacting to the present moment, or is this tied to something from my past? This pause creates space to respond more thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. 2. Developing critical thinking skills. Critical thinking is essential for challenging biases and seeing situations from multiple perspectives. Begin by practicing the habit of asking better questions. For example, what evidence supports this belief? What might I be missing or ignoring? How would someone with a different background or experience see this situation? Imagine you encounter a sensational news article. Instead of accepting it at face value, question its sources, context, and intent. Does the headline reflect the full story, or is it designed to provoke an emotional reaction? This approach not only helps you discern truth, but also prevents you from falling into the trap of selective perception. 3. Expanding your horizons. Breaking out of perceptual limitations often requires stepping outside of your comfort zone. This can be as simple as engaging with people from different cultures, reading books that challenge your worldview, or traveling to unfamiliar places. Each experience introduces new perspectives and challenges your brain's reliance on familiar patterns. For example, if you've always worked in a structured corporate environment, try attending a creative workshop or volunteering in a community project. These experiences expose you to alternative ways of thinking and problem-solving, broadening your understanding of the world. 4. Practicing empathy. Empathy allows us to step into someone else's shoes and see the world from their perspective. It's a skill that not only deepens personal connections but also helps dismantle biases. To cultivate empathy, practice active listening. Focus fully on the other person's words without planning your response. Reflect back what you've heard to ensure understanding. Consider an exercise where you intentionally seek out conversations with people whose opinions differ from yours. Instead of debating, ask open-ended questions to explore their point of view. This doesn't mean you have to agree with them, but the act of understanding their perspective can broaden your own. 5. Embracing curiosity and openness. Finally, a curious mindset is one of the most powerful tools for expanding perception. Treat the world as a classroom, where every encounter offers an opportunity to learn. Ask why and how questions about the things you take for granted. For instance, why do we perceive certain colors as calming? How do cultural norms shape our ideas of beauty or success? Openness doesn't mean abandoning your beliefs. It means holding them lightly and being willing to adapt when presented with new evidence. This mindset not only enhances personal growth, but also fosters a more inclusive and understanding society. Transforming perception into action. These tools aren't just abstract concepts. They're practical ways to reshape how you experience life. The more you question and expand your perceptions, the more opportunities you'll find to connect deeply with others, solve problems creatively, and make informed decisions. In the next chapter, we'll reflect on the transformative potential of seeing the world with fresh eyes, and how adopting these tools can lead to a more conscious, fulfilling life. By now, it should be clear that the world we perceive isn't the world as it truly is. It's a reflection shaped by our brain's filters, biases, and shortcuts. These mental constructs, while efficient for navigating daily life, often limit our understanding and create blind spots. But with awareness and the right tools, we can begin to challenge these limitations, unlocking a richer, more nuanced view of reality. The journey to seeing the world differently starts with questioning your assumptions. What you take as truth is often a story your mind has created based on incomplete data. Recognizing this opens the door to curiosity, an essential quality for growth. Instead of clinging to certainty, embrace the unknown. When faced with a new idea or perspective, ask yourself, what can I learn from this? The benefits of this approach extend far beyond intellectual insight. It can transform how you engage with the world. Imagine the impact of truly listening to someone without judgment, of approaching challenges with openness instead of defensiveness, or of seeing potential where others see only obstacles. These shifts don't just change your perceptions, they change your relationships, decisions, and ultimately your life. As you start applying the tools we've explored, mindfulness, critical thinking, empathy, and curiosity, you'll notice subtle but profound changes. The next time you find yourself in a disagreement, pause and consider the other person's perspective. When confronted with a strong emotion, take a moment to observe it instead of reacting automatically. And when you encounter something unfamiliar or challenging, lean into it rather than turning away. The process of questioning and expanding your perceptions isn't always comfortable, but it's deeply rewarding. It allows you to step outside the confines of your mental frameworks and see the world, and yourself, with greater clarity and compassion. So, as you go about your day, ask yourself this simple yet powerful question: what am I not seeing? This small act of reflection can spark a profound shift, opening your mind to new possibilities and helping you connect with the world in ways you never imagined. Thank you for taking this journey. The next step is yours to take. What will you choose to see differently today?